every morning with drive. Being on the grind, know I had to survive. We had to win. Started from the dirt and the rubble. I had to be the needle that was popping your bubble.
Hello and welcome into the Rookie Prospect Profile Series, a Zilla Fantasy Elite production. Today we're going to be looking at wide receiver Xavier Legette within the rookie wide receiver machine learning models. Fantasy glory or fantasy bust? The fate of Xavier Legette hangs in the balance as our machine learning models deliver their verdicts. All right, Xavier Legette was drafted number 32 by the Carolina Panthers. They actually traded back into the first round, one spot with Buffalo to get that pick and drafted Xavier Legette with that pick. They come into the league out of USC, or the University of South Carolina, the Gamecocks. Xavier Legette comes in at a height of 6'1", a whopping 221 pounds, very big guy. And what did he do? He's super athletic, 40-inch vertical, ran a 4.39 in the 40, kind of jumping out of the gym here, seems super athletic, but he is one of those guys that's got one of those really unique profiles. If you've listened to any other analysis, you know that he basically did nothing for the first 4 years of college. Maybe had about 30 receptions total throughout those first 4 seasons. And then he exploded last year, just going off. It was kind of a weird profile. So what do our machine learning models have to say about him? Stay tuned because it's not very good. Basically declines throughout his entire first 4 seasons. There's a stall. His first season's really his best. The next season he doesn't improve much, and then he starts declining in his 3rd and 4th year. So unfortunately for him, doesn't look like it's super good, but let's dive into those first year predictions for Xavier Legette. We can see some nice ranks here from Xavier Legette on the year 1 profile. He was a 7th wide receiver drafted in the first round, so his rank comes in very accordingly here. Minimum at 3.25 was ranked number 7 in the class. His mean and median also ranked number 7 in the class at 7.96 and 8 fantasy points per game. Then he maxed out at 13.22 fantasy points per game, which was good for 10th best in the class. Standard deviation at 1.82, 33rd best. And then he had the 7th best CV in the class, or coefficient of variance, at 22.8%. So looking at that mean and median hovering right almost at exactly 8. Who do we have around there? Well, there's 3 people that scored exactly 8 in their rookie season throughout the draft classes from 2013 through 2023. So 11 draft classes here. Those 3 were Anthony Miller, DeMarcus Ayers, and Malcolm Mitchell. Not super inspiring people there. Just below that, Dontavian Wicks, 7.98. Jalen Reagor, the disappointment, 7.93. Dorial Green-Beckham, similar disappointment. Kenny Stills, both at 7.9. Romeo Doubs, 7.82, and Tyler Boyd at 7.8. A little bit above that 8 range, we have Antonio Callaway and Jamison Crowder at 8.1. Robbie Chosen Anderson at 8.2. Kadarius Toney, 8.24. Keelan Cole at 8.3. Not exactly an inspiring list, but that's kind of what it's saying for an average outcome for Xavier Legette in his first season. That maximum output at 13.22 is actually pretty solid there. Gets into the top 25 all time in terms of rookies if he can hit that ceiling. Chris Olave in his rookie season was just below that at 13.21. Jordan Addison last year at 13.02. Martavis Bryant's rookie season, 13. Calvin Ridley, Zay Flowers, both at 12.9 in their rookie year. And then a little bit above that, we have Rashee Rice, 13.28. Amari Cooper, 13.3. Some pretty good names here. Amon-Ra St. Brown at 1.337 or 13.37 fantasy points per game in his rookie season. Chase Claypool, 13.43. Jaden Reed, 13.58. And A.J. Brown, 13.6. CeeDee Lamb, 13.61. Some pretty good company there if he hits the ceiling. But that is a 1,000 out of 1,000th outcome. Highly unlikely to hit that in his rookie season, but everything can be, molds are meant to be broken. That's certainly the possibility was Legette there. It sounds like Carolina wants to use him in a fashion that will highlight what he does well, which is good, a little bit better than what we can say for Keon Coleman. Not really good against press man coverage, and they're expecting him to be an X receiver. He profiles more as somebody that should be coming out of the slot as one of those big slot yak guys, similar to Amon-Ra St. Brown or Rashee Rice, guys like that. Well, what about Xavier Legette's second season? I already kind of hinted at it. He doesn't improve much. We kind of see those averages go from right around 8 to just above 8 there. Good for 11th in the class, and the mean and median at 8.03 and 8.07. Then minimum at 2.72 is the 11th best, and maximum output actually declined a little bit here at 12.83. Unfortunately for Xavier Legette, already starting to see a kind of a decline here. A slight increase in the mean and median, but it's very slightly. His maximum already coming down. That's ranked 19th in the class. Unfortunately, for those who are drafting him in the late first, early second, this machine learning model doesn't necessarily like him. And the problem is, if you look down there at the CV, 20%, just in general, we're dealing with some very, very volatile information here. We're trying to do machine learning on wide receivers who play a sport that's really reliant on 11 other people or 12 other people, 22 other people on the field trying to do their job. It's not just an easy one-to-one thing. We're getting 20% for a CV just in a normal data set is actually kind of in the good range. We're getting a 20% even here for Xavier Legette in year 2, which suggests this is highly good data for him and highly likely output here. And it is 4th best in the classer, so it's expecting that to be a pretty solid result. Again, we saw all those ranks kind of shift from 7th, 8th. Now they're looking at 10th, 11th, 12th, and then the maximum output already at 19. So not super good there. Pretty even distribution there across the board on those graphs. So who hit the 8-point threshold in year 2? We already saw the people that did it in year 1. But let's look at those guys that did it in year 2. We actually have 4 of them that did it in year 2 at 8 fantasy points per game. Anthony Miller, the consistency there, 8 points as a rookie. Again, 8 points in his second year. Devontae Adams, Justin Hunter, and Josh Dotson all at 8 fantasy points per game in their second season. Just below that, Laviska Shenault, 7.94. Gabe Davis, 7.87. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 7.84. Just above that 8 range, really just above. Mecole Hardman, 8.01. Marcus Wheaton, 8.2. Hunter Renfrow, 8.23. Josh Reynolds and Tyler Lockett at 8.3. So not too bad of names in this particular list. We got, Hunter Renfrow ended up doing pretty good in his 3rd season. Josh Reynolds had his moments, but nothing better than his 2nd season. Lockett, we know, went on to have a pretty good 4th year breakout. Devontae Adams is in this list, but that's probably the high-end outcomes of what you're looking for, even though this is the median outcome. Let's look at that maximum output, 12.83. Where does that fall in the annals of history? 12.83 would end up being right at wide receiver 40 throughout the last 11 draft classes. So not towards the higher end, but a pretty solid mark there. Right at 12.8, we have Christian Kirk and Cam Meredith. Just below that, Garrett Wilson's rookie season, 12.54. Keenan Allen, Robbie Chosen-Anderson at 12.5. A little bit above that 12.8 mark, Darnell Mooney, 12.92. Sterling Shepard, 13.1. And a little bit of a bump up to Tyrell Williams at 13.6. That's kind of where it's putting Xavier Legette's maximum output in his 2nd season. So let's dive into that 3rd year output. I told you it already kind of declined. So we're looking at a mean and median at 8, maximum of 12.83. As we dump into year 3 here, we see that mean actually jumps down almost 2 full fantasy points per game, down to 6.3 and 6.22. 16th best mean and median in the class for year 3 people. And that maximum went up a little bit, 14.41. But still 19th best maximum output for year 3. It's really saying that he's not going to be good compared to his counterparts, which is unfortunate that Carolina spent some draft capital to move up 1 spot to grab him in the 1st round. Machine learning model certainly does not like Xavier Legette in his profile here. So let's get into those year 3 guys. 6.3, 6.2, what does that mean? Well, right at 6.3 is Leonte Carroo. If you remember him, I certainly don't, but it's a cool name. I remember hearing that name back in the day, but he was not fantasy relevant. James Washington hit 6.2 fantasy points per game in his third year. Rondale Moore, 6.18 last year. Jalen Guyton, 6.0. Then a whole host of people at 6. Justin Hunter, Justin Hardy, and Jakeem Grant. A little bit above that. Kendrick Bourne, 6.4. Richie James, 6.44. Keelan Cole, 6.6. And again, we have Anthony Miller at 6.79. Seems to be a common person for his average output is Anthony Miller. Can we really say, hey, Xavier Legette is Anthony Miller? I don't think so. I think Miller was a taller, skinnier guy, but certainly interesting to see his name pop up in all 3 seasons here for his medium outcomes. All right, let's look at that maximum output at 14.41. Where does that fall? That would be actually in the top 25, just above DK Metcalf's year 3 season. DK Metcalf hit 14.37. Jarvis Landry, 14.3. Devontae Smith, 14.23. Steph Diggs, 14.2. Jalen Waddle, 14.19. A little bit higher than that, Will Fuller hit 15.2 fantasy points per game in his 3rd season. Hunter Renfrow, 15.24. Devontae Adams, 15.3. Kenny Golladay, 15.5. So if he hits a 1,000th or 100th percentile outcome, he's looking at some of those guys in year 3. For those who draft him, I certainly hope that's the case, but machine learning models does not like him getting into 16th, 17th ranked everywhere here, 19th best. Maximum output is CV at 33.3%, is 16th best in the class. Nothing to really talk about there. Let's hop into that final season, see what happens with Xavier Legette as we get into year 4. And we see that mean drops down again, down to 5.2, median all the way down at 4.92. One good thing for him is his maximum output in year 4 did bump up in rank at 13th best maximum output for year 4. That was at 14.95 fantasy points per game. The CV in his year 4 was pretty high, though. It was 36. So really saying his variance for his year 4 outcome is pretty significantly skewed from side to side. And we can actually see that on the low end. He's ranked 24th in minimum, 10th percentile. He's got the 29th best, 10th percentile, but then kind of bumps up 20th, low 20s for mean and median, 75th and 90th percentile, ranked 18th. Then that maximum output all the way at 13. So kind of skewing off to the higher end there. And also saying that he's got one of the worst lower end scores, especially for a round 1 wide receiver. You don't want to see that type of number come up in the machine learning model. But let's go look at the mean and median, see who is hovering around 5, and see if Anthony Miller's hiding out again. And lo and behold, Anthony Miller, 4.83. He is hovering down there at 5. There's only one person above him, which is Geronimo Allison. And then we get to Marcus Wheaton exactly at 5 fantasy points per game. Taylor Gabriel, 5.1. Darnell Mooney, 5.26. Cody Latimer at 5.4. Just below that, Geronimo Allison, we said 4.9, and Anthony Miller at 4.83. But then Chester Rogers and Farrell Cooper both at 4.6. Jakeem Grant, 4.4. That's the second time we've seen him. Same with James Washington at 4.39. So we've seen some familiar faces, kind of looking as a career path similar to Anthony Miller, unfortunately for the Panthers in this machine learning model. Obviously, they probably don't use this sort of information when they're doing their analysis, but kind of interesting to see how bad this actually was, considering it was a first round pick and knowing that draft capital is the most important input to any of these 4 seasonal models for rookies. That maximum output, though, 14.95, is a halfway decent amount. 14.95 would actually put him as the 13th best ever in the last 11 draft classes. Juju Smith-Schuster, his 4th season was at 14.63. Mari Cooper, 14.4. Calvin Ridley, 14.2. Curtis Samuel, 14.14. Brandon Ayuk, a little bit above that, 15.58. Michael Pittman, 15.64. Tyreek Hill, 15.7. Devontae Adams, 15.9. Chris Godwin, 15.92 in their 4th season. So kind of hovering around the best case scenario for the Xavier Legette profile in year 4, but the model just doesn't like Xavier Legette. What can you say? That is going to do it for his profile here. Hopefully you can get a little bit of knowledge or, gain a little bit of more information about some of these prospects and what they look like. According to math and machine learning, saying here's what happened in history. Let's see based off of this profile, what is the most likely outcome? And we run 1,000 simulations and we say, hey, here's each and every individual outcome of those 1,000 simulations. Minimum 0.61, maximum 14.95. They all average around about 5 fantasy points per game. Middle one, just below 5 fantasy points per game. That's what it's saying. Looking at history, that Xavier Legette probably going to look like. All right, again, that's going to do it for today's rookie prospect profile on Xavier Legette. It is presented by Zilla Fantasy Elite. Thanks for tuning in and have a good one. Bye.